Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Boy, I have to say, there is talent inside of the Progressive Labor Party. And I am so happy that this conference allows us to highlight some of our young members who are contributing to this party, who are working in this party, and who are serving in this party. Now, my speech will not be as short as Joshe Adams' speech was. I knew where we came from, to update you on where we are, and to enlist Bermudians in this party's renewed mission to fight the status quo. Members, in the midst of one of the world's most turbulent decades, the 1960s, a few men of vision set about changing a centuries-old status quo on easily the most conservative island in the region. We cannot know precisely what was in the minds of Richardson, Allen, Dijon, Wilson, Cann, and Smith. But here, in the shadows of the house in which they worshiped, we stand having exceeded their wildest dreams, and we are the torchbearers of a great legacy of strength and determination. It is on their shoulders that we stand, and through their selfless desire for change, that we form the government of Bermuda, that must again meet the fierce need to abandon the status quo. Where have we come from? We were elected on the promise of change, and on a platform which some term the most progressive agenda in the history of party politics in Bermuda. The people responded to the call for change and sent us to the House of Assembly, first with 24 seats, and later that became 25. In the 27 months since the election, many lessons have been learned, and we have grown a lifetime in the school of governing. Faced with an onslaught of economic issues, we did not really enjoy a honeymoon period. Look at the hand we were dealt. No buses to get our children to school, no plan for trash trucks to keep our island clean, a one-shot wonder of a boat race, a secretly dying hotel project guaranteed by your tax dollars, and an airport deal sewn up tighter than Bob Richards' you know what. I'm going to remember where I am in my own church, but you get my drift. Let me be clear, family. These were not mistakes made by the former government. These were deliberate acts. They govern in this way by design, not by happenstance. That is who they are. With your support, we have changed the course they have set and restored some faith in the relationship between government and the people. We made the achievement of higher education a reality through our College Promise program, with over 500 students, young and not so young, have embarked on educational opportunities thanks to this PLP government. Young people whose lives were changed in an instant because of a mistake will no longer be chewed up and spat out because of the criminalization of cannabis possession. Seniors who had worked all their lives under a system of inherent inequality were told money doesn't grow on trees, but now see a pension increase guaranteed every year. Government workers, so often made the scapegoat for everything bad in Bermuda, were given the raise that they had earned. And here, family, is what tears the One Bermuda Alliance apart. All of that has been done, yet your government still delivered the first balanced budget that Bermuda has had in 17 years. However, tonight, I see it as my responsibility to sound a new call. The duty I have to my children, to your children, and your grandchildren is to eliminate the politics of fear of change and the unconscious defense of the status quo. Again, the unconscious defense of the status quo. As the leader of this great progressive Labor Party, it is my humble task to articulate a progressive vision for the future. In simple terms, we cannot solve today's problems with yesterday's thinking, or by devoting all our efforts into reincarnating the 1980s and 90s. We need to let those decades go. Think about it. If retail stores in cities with millions of people are going out of business every day, is the answer to Bermuda's retail challenges really as simple as we need more people? Of course not. Let the 80s and 90s go. Those rules do not apply anymore. Family, the world has changed, and we need to decide whether we want to be the masters of our own destiny or find ourselves lost for another decade, which will lead us to losing the government again. We have to commit to systemic change. 2 years ago, I asked for your vote. 1 year ago, I asked for your continued patience and confidence. Tonight, I'm asking you to open your eyes and recognize that there is a segment of Bermuda that is just fine for things to remain exactly as is. After years of banging our head against the wall and trying slowly but surely to make unjust systems work for our people, systemic change means tearing down processes and institutions that rely on our marginalization to succeed. Systemic change instills fear in those who have the most to lose. Here's a hint. You know when you're about to break down an unjust stronghold by seeing who is objecting and how loud the objections are and the words they use against the change. So when this government moved towards fairer health insurance costs and developing a health insurance package that has better benefits for hardworking men and women and their families, look who led the charge against it. Insurance companies demanding that we leave their profits alone so that they can continue to print money with mandatory premiums the law has steered in their direction for 50 years. And out came the C word, consultation. Now hear this. Minister Wilson and her team met with insurance companies at every step of the way. But now, magically, those meetings never happen. So when you hear no consultation, that actually means, and I quote, "You don't have our permission," end quote. It cannot be right that there are 5,000 underinsured or uninsured Bermudians, and 91% of those 5,000 are black. That is wrong, that is unjust, but that is the system we have here in Bermuda. So when we are attacked for fighting for a better and fairer system for the people of this country, I wear that as a badge of honor. Because in the Bermuda that the Progressive Labor Party leads, we must have fairness. We cannot have persons that do not have access to health care or systems that leave many Bermudians behind without adequate coverage. The government will consult. We will work with doctors and practitioners. But when we decide on a course of action, we will not seek the permission of those who do not share our goals for a fairer and better Bermuda. We were elected to govern, and we were elected to transform Bermuda, and that cannot be achieved, to quote Colonel Burt, by tiptoeing through the oleanders. The health insurance sector is not the only sector that needs systemic change. Many would argue that our banks do as well. I will speak more about banking later, but firstly, I need to speak about a systemic injustice that we will resolve shortly. Too many Bermudians have been losing their homes due to foreclosure. A few months ago, my heart broke when MP Michael Scott told me about a client of his, a 72-year-old member of this party who was made homeless when her home was foreclosed. Yes, family, you heard me correctly. A 72-year-old woman was made homeless in our country of Bermuda. It is very concerning to me that this continues to happen with impunity as properties are taken, sold at less than market value, and then resold to others, while Bermudians are left holding the bill. We have already started the work to address this injustice, and your government will put in place rules that will require alternative actions if a foreclosure will make homeowners homeless. Additionally, we will require all foreclosures to be reviewed by a government body to ensure that the banks are acting in a fair and just manner. We have to have a compassionate society that ensures that banks are being fair when they foreclose on homes and are not just taking advantage of Bermudians. And we will legislate this because we have the responsibility to do so. Bermuda must be better, and it must be fairer. And this is a step in the direction that will help to achieve that aim. And I sincerely hope that each and every single person inside this room will support us in that objective. Family, allow me some time to speak about the challenging issue of immigration reform. Former Minister Wayne Parentchief described immigration as the third rail of Bermudian politics. Others have called immigration a necessary evil. Still others have called it the only thing that will save us. The truth, as usual, is somewhere in the middle. Immigration is difficult in Bermuda because it was used by the United Bermuda Party and then its wayward stepchild, the One Bermuda Alliance, as a way to divide this country. The plain truth is that generations of Bermudians simply do not trust anything to do with immigration reform, and they have good reason not to. Bermudians have trained expats for jobs they were denied. Bermudians have seen status handed out like candy, provided you supported the right party or joined the right clubs. And Bermudians have comforted their crying children whose university degrees were rendered worthless in their country by unfair hiring practices. So yes, we need more job creators in Bermuda. Yes, we need more people living and working in Bermuda. Yes, we have an aging population and a declining birth rate. Yes, we need to grow the young and healthy working population in this country. All of that is true. But what we cannot do is sell out Bermuda to the exclusion of our people in the name of economic expediency. The history of immigration policy in this country proves and teaches us that Bermudians need to be protected. So to all of those people who benefited from that history and are openly calling for a return of those supposed good old days, comprehensive immigration reform is coming, but make no mistake, it will not be your father's immigration policy all over again. We all fought the OBA's pathways to status, not because we did not believe in comprehensive immigration reform, but because we did not believe in immigration reforms that harken back to the failed policies of the past, which marginalized Bermudians. We have the power to shape the future and to make sure that immigration reform works for our children and our children's children, just like it does in other countries. And if done properly, it can help to lower the cost of living in Bermuda, which is something that I'm sure all of us will welcome. I want to close on immigration with this, because I understand that there may be one or two persons from the One Bermuda Alliance here with us. My mother and father, who are here in the audience, hi, taught me, and I am now teaching my own children, that when you do something wrong and you offend someone, you must apologize. A large part of what makes our immigration debate so toxic is that neither the old UBP or its new creation, the OBA, have ever apologized for what their immigration policies did in this country. The unjustly applied discretionary grants of status, the grants of the vote for people who had only been here for 10 minutes, the deliberate recruitment of certain demographic groups to the exclusion of others, not one word of atonement or recognition of just what they did to create the divided society that we have today. They did this, and to now pretend like nothing happened and just shout for a new policy just like the old one is disrespectful. Humble yourselves. Publicly accept what you did. Show some remorse, and maybe this country has a hope of healing the divide. Even the Anglican Church eventually apologized for its role in slavery. You have an opportunity to do the right thing. Now, colleagues, to the meat of my remarks. I told you, controversy is coming. I'm going to talk about our battle against the status quo, because it is my belief that in Bermuda, there are two types of people. It's not black or white. It's not rich or poor. It's not OBA or PLP, to be honest. It is those who are for the status quo and those who are against the status quo. The Progressive Labor Party was born from the will to fight the social and economic inequalities that divided Bermuda, keeping a segment of Bermuda behind, the majority black segment. Progressive policies were needed to fight a legacy of oppression, segregation, and inequality. The progressive stances were required then and are equally required now. However, it seems that we, as a party, are unconsciously becoming the guardians of the status quo, a status quo that fails to serve the best interests of people. Look at the furor that was set off by skipping the throne speech for just 1 year. It is as though the suggestion of change Bermuda, any change, meets with a hostile reaction, no matter how small the change is or whether the change may be good for us. To progress, change is required. Change is required to break down systemic barriers that have hindered the advancement of all in Bermuda. We require a change in mindset, but we also require a change in the way that we view our economic system. We must create a new normal that will use the force of government to heal the ills that plague our society. At times, I feel that we are struck with amnesia. We forget who the real enemy are, and too often focus on disruptive internal cannibalism. While we bicker and fuss, the real enemy maintains control of the wealth and our economy. And their political puppets plot our demise. We must never lose sight of who the real enemies of progress are. And a united front under a common vision is ultimately what is required. In our final reply to the budget in opposition, we said that the PLP was not running to be the best manager of the status quo, because the status quo has largely failed most of the people of Bermuda. And the reality is that since 2 years we've been in government, although we have some accomplishments we can point to, our people are becoming impatient with the pace of change and are questioning whether or not we have the courage to break the cycle, to take on the status quo. They are wondering if we are willing to back up our tough talk with action. They are wondering if we really feel the plight of the working class in Bermuda, who, given as much as they earn, should be solidly middle class, but are still struggling to make ends meet. Crushed by the cost of housing and mortgages, challenged by food prices and facing high electricity bills, they wonder if we really understand what is happening in Bermuda. The fact is, family, yes, we do. We are still connected to the community, and we hear and feel your cries for help. However, it is clear to me more than ever that the challenge is not rooted directly in the government's management of the economy, as some would have you believe. Why not? Because the structure of the economy is not set up to reduce costs or make life easy for the working class. It is not who is managing the system, it is the system itself. The fundamental basis of our economic system is broken, and although the forces behind the status quo may be less well off than they once were, they are still well off. While the vast majority continue to struggle, duty changes and elimination for staple food goods, energy-efficient light bulbs, mortgage duty elimination are mere tinkering around the edges, when, as our dear departed colleague, the late Walton Brown stated, direct action is needed. So, family, I am here to tell you today that this government will take direct action in tackling these forces by using recently changed laws that allow the government to start corporations through the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation that will keep our local companies honest while providing relief to many in this country. Not only will we start these companies, but all of you will have the option to become shareholders so that you can enjoy the collective benefit. What does this mean? Does this mean that the government is going to get into the business of providing food? Not entirely, but it does mean that a government-backed company must challenge the high prices of food on our island. Family, let me give you an example of how Bermuda's economy does not work for the majority, and why the power of government must be used to reduce prices in our economy. I'm going to tell you a story. It's a story about before the election, when I spoke to the owner of a supermarket in Bermuda. The owner told me that they could reduce the price of food tomorrow by 15%, but it would mean that they would cut out the middleman, and that was not something that they were willing to do. Let me translate that for you. What the owner really meant to say was this: this current setup means that many of us are profiting from it, and I am not willing to reduce the incomes of some who have profited for decades so that the vast majority of people can benefit. In other words, I'm just going to interrupt and ask all of those who are at the coding boot camp to please stand up and be recognized. I know you're here, stand up, let's go. You too. Now, as I said, we want to empower entrepreneurs using technology to build a more efficient model. Just one problem, right? You'll need to go to the bank to get some money. And we know how, in the Bermuda of today, that story will end. So, you may ask, where will we get the money, Premier? We're barely able to save as it is. We don't have the money to start our own supermarket. Well, guess what, family? Yes, you do. In 1998, one of the last acts of the then UBP government was to create a mandatory savings plan for all, called the National Pension Scheme. The plan was to boost savings and provided a government-mandated steady stream of income for the money managers at local pension companies. Follow me now, family, because this is important. Much of this money, now worth $3 billion, that's billion with a B, is invested overseas, creating jobs and economic opportunities for people in other countries and not for all of you. Yes, that's right. I said it correctly. The mandatory savings, less the fees that you are paying to Argus, Colonial, and BFM to manage your money, are being used to create businesses overseas while you struggle to create businesses locally. Tonight, I say and declare that it's time to bring that money home. The hopes and dreams of entrepreneurs who wish to compete with the established generational wealth to make our economy more efficient and create wealth for them and future generations can no longer be deferred. In Singapore, a country that many want Bermuda to be like, they allow their citizens to use mandatory savings to put a down payment on a new home. Invest in the shares of Singaporean companies and buy stocks and bonds. I want that for all of the Bermudians here who have toiled hard and want hope for the future. I have faith that Bermudians can look at what they have, assess the risks, and decide if they wish to make a bet on their future. If they are confident in their plans, they should be given access to a small portion of their forced savings to benefit themselves and their families. It's very simple. If it's good enough for the people in Singapore, it's good enough for the people of Bermuda. Now, I'm going to get controversial because I could, say that you can have access to your forced savings. Or those who did not challenge leadership or injustice in the workplace have been promoted with big bonuses. Family, let us not be afraid of building our collective future. Let us not doubt ourselves. This is the time, this is the opportunity to practice collective economics and to pool your resources. This is the time to use the training and experience to build something that fulfills the vision of your parents, who sacrificed to send you away to school so that you can work together to help your community. My predecessor as leader of this party, Mark Green, preached the mantra that we must do for self. Yes, we must. And yes, I want us to do for self. But we, as the Progressive Labor Party government, must give our citizens the tools and resources to do for self. What is standing in our way is access to capital. And we will let you bring your capital back to Bermuda so that it can work for you, and collectively we can fulfill that vision of doing for self. This is not an anti-business speech. As an entrepreneur, I do not have anything against private enterprise. However, it is important to accept that if Bermuda's economy does not become more fair, we will all of us will continue to suffer. If we can make our local economy more efficient through competition and collective economics, while keeping companies honest that are profiting off the backs of hard-working Bermudians, we will have lower prices in this country. And that means that we'll be able to save more, spend more, grow this economy, create jobs, and ensure the future of this country is prosperous. So tomorrow, when you hear or read, Burt attacks business, when you read those blogs with their vitriolic language saying that Burt doesn't understand the way the economy works, when you hear all these things that will be hurled towards your leader after tonight's speech, remember one thing and one thing only. There is nothing that David Burt can say or do that will satisfy our detractors unless it keeps the status quo in place. However, we were not elected to serve their interests. And if there is one regret that I have over the last 2 years, it is possibly being too deferential to the interests that will never support this party's aims and objectives. Yes, we will govern for all of Bermuda, but not all of Bermuda needs help. So when they go back to their talking points and call me a radical, remind them that we've done it their way for 50 years and it has not worked for the people of Bermuda. Enough is enough. It is not radical to expect lower prices in the country so that individuals do not have to work 2 jobs to tread water. It is not radical to expect that families can have a decent life and save for their future. It is not radical to expect and allow people to voluntarily use their savings to invest so they can build a home or invest in a business for the future. It is not radical to take what has worked in other countries that have worked to build the middle class and make people property owners. The only people who deserve the title of radical are those who do not wish for this to happen and are scared of the collective ambition of the have-nots that are about to be unleashed tonight. So, family, where do we go from here? In our 2017 election platform, we told our fellow Bermudians, in order to deliver the social framework required, the PLP will take actions to balance our budget, increase employment, educate our citizens, heal our social fabric, rebuild our infrastructure, and make government more responsive while reducing structural inequality. That was our promise then. That has been our daily work for these past 27 months, and that is where we will go from here. That is who we are, and that is what we are about. By any measure, we are on the right track. We have made significant progress, and we have not lost the energy or will to keep pressing forward with that mission. And family, let me make it clear, that mission has not changed and will not change, no matter if someone in a fancy hat reads it on the Cabinet Office lawn, or I say it right here in Centennial Hall. Now, I know that some of you are here to find out what the government has in store for the next year. On November 15th in the House of Assembly, I will be making a statement to outline the pledges of which we have completed from last year's throne speech and the items which will be added to the government's agenda. Out of the 52 commitments made last year, 19 have been fully completed and 33 are in progress, with some coming to the House of Assembly this month. However, it wouldn't be right of me to invite you here and not give you just a little preview of what's in store. Every year, the Progressive Labor Party caucus holds a retreat, which all members look forward to, where members of caucus can suggest items to be added to the government's agenda. In true democratic fashion, those items are discussed and then voted on by the members of the caucus. 46 issues were put to the Progressive Labor Party caucus, and I'm going to share 5 of the issues which made the top 20, which will be part of the government's agenda as we move forward into 2020. The first, and this goes in conjunction with what I had said before, and I'm pleased to see the president of the Bermuda Industrial Union here today. The government will work with our labor unions to create the Union Deposit Company, a cooperative company that will provide expanded access to lower mortgages for their members. We will commence the implementation of our platform promise to provide unemployment insurance in Bermuda. To build a more inclusive Bermuda, we will complete the long overdue National Disabilities and Accessibility Plan. To support our educators, we will repurpose a school building to be used for alternative education. Reality for our people. We have not forgotten one person or family left behind by the previous government's policies. We have brought some relief to those parents and families. Students are taking advantage of our college promise to further education, and seniors can rest assured that we'll always take care of them. We are diversifying our economy, making it more fair so that people can break free from the traditional economic constraints that too often characterize Bermuda. We have not been perfect, and I think you all know that. We haven't always gotten everything right, and I'm sure over the next year we may get some things wrong. But our mission is unchanged. We are clear on what we have been elected to do, and with your support and with your strength and commitment, we will finish this race strong. I am confident in Bermuda's future because I have seen firsthand how this team of ministers and MPs, senators, and party executives have put public service first. Let's give them all a round of applause, please. I have witnessed the open and frank debate on the future of this country as we make decisions, and have never doubted that Bermuda's best interest was on the lips of every person. I know the unwavering commitment they bring to this work, and so I can tell you confidently that Bermuda will succeed. Now, before I finish, let me talk about a phrase we hear a lot: friends and family. Let me give you some examples of friends and family. An example of friends and family is a young Bermudian named Shay Brangman, who is here tonight. Go on, Shay. I know you don't want to be embarrassed, but let's go. I'm proud of you, Shay. I met Shay a few years back when he was playing for Devonshire Cougars. I ran into him a few months back following his return home with his university degree in business. When we spoke, he was losing hope as he was working as a kitchen porter and was looking to leave Bermuda. Today, Shay is now working as a trainee in an international business after a business that is expanding in Bermuda created 2 trainee positions. So when you hear them talk about friends and family that the PLP is looking out for, I want you to think about my friend, Shay Brangman. Or Dejan Richardson. Where are you, Dejan? All right, there you are. A very good Somerset supporter who actually met me at Cup Match. And I remembered it. Missed that one, huh? Dejan recently graduated from university and studied hard and approached me at Cup Match saying that he was looking for a job in the investment field. He had studied hard and already earned some investment certifications. And I was incredibly proud to recommend him to a company for a trainee position of where he's currently employed. Congratulations, Dejan. When you hear that the PLP is looking out for friends and family, I want you to think about my friend Rachel Burrows, a working mother who has sacrificed, yes, Rachel, A working mother who has sacrificed to provide for her children, who has had the opportunity to go back to school and earn her bachelor's degree from the Mount St. Vincent University. Due to this party's College Promise program. When they throw about friends and family, I want you to consider the members of our national football team, some of them who are here today. I want you to think about our national team captain and my constituent, so I'm partial, Dante Levrock. Who was granted a grant, Dante's still overseas, by the way, but I'm still going to talk about him, because he was granted a graduate scholarship to continue his master's degree program so that he will continue to excel off the field as well as on the field. And I want you to consider and think about Lejean Simmons, who I consider my family, who this government will support via the Department of Workforce Development to become Bermuda's first certified sprinkler installer. Family, these stories are important because you will not read them in the Royal Gazette. But they are a testament to the ethos of this government to make sure that we look out for those who need someone to look out for them. So family, friends, colleagues, members, those are my friends, but those are your family. I want every single Bermudian to know that the Progressive Labor Party is here for you. As the first person in my family to go to university, I know how important it is to help those that need a hand up. And the members of this party, our parliamentarians, and everyone from top to down will not rest until every Bermudian is given a fair chance in this country. This work is not about me. It isn't about any of the bold and courageous men and women that are serving the PLP and Bermuda on the front line, determined to end the unjust status quo. We are just the latest soldiers on the battlefield for freedom, justice, and equality, so that many before us have fought and sacrificed for. That work that we are engaged in is not about us. It is about all of you. It is about standing up for the basic principle that Bermudians must come first in their own country. It is about tearing down an unjust present in the name of building a better future for our children. It is a simple argument: maintaining the status quo or living up to our name as the Progressive Labor Party. So family, as I finish, what do I need from you? I want you to leave here unafraid of challenging the status quo. No longer can we afford one segment of our society to prosper while the other is left with struggle, frustration, and hope. I want you to leave here saying, I am going to be a part of the change that this country needs. I want you to leave here saying, I am going to stand up and fight for my children and my children's children, because Bermuda is a place for my family and we have to make it fair and just. Finally, I'm asking you to join us in this mission. I'm asking for you to take to the streets, take to social media, and to the airwaves to declare that you are ready to join the fight against the status quo. I am asking for all of you to join the Progressive Labor Party and fight for this country's future. Thank you for coming, thank you for your attention, and may God bless the Progressive Labor Party and this country of Bermuda.
Ladies and gentlemen,